to the Astrology Weather Station. I'm your Space Weather Woman, Summer Chen, and today we'll be going over the planetary transits for June 23rd through June 29th. While the times I report are for Pacific Standard Time, you can convert to your time zone using the handy spreadsheet linked below, because these transits are happening for everyone in the world at the exact same moment, but we'll just defer on time for you depending on your time zone. Just search for your location's UTC offset number. Make sure to include whether it's negative or positive. For example, New York is -4. Add it under your UTC and hit enter. This week, I'm also going to be connecting each of the days to a different movie, and so they'll contain spoilers, so if you're planning on watching any of these movies and don't want to be spoiled, you can skip ahead to another day. Or if you're like me and actually kind of like spoilers because it makes me wonder how that happened in the first place, I hope you'll keep watching because I'll also be including links to the scenes in the description. And then let's get started with the Pacific time zone. On Monday, June 23rd, the only three major transits today are all within 11 minutes of each other. At 1:17 a.m., the Gemini moon trines Aquarius Pluto at 3 degrees. 8 minutes later, at 1:25 a.m., the Gemini moon squares Virgo Mars, also at 3 degrees. At 1:28 a.m., the Cancer sun squares Aries Neptune also at 3 degrees. And this reminds me of a really sad scene in I, Robot starring Will Smith, where society has fully embraced the use of robots. So that's the air moon, the public, trining Aquarius Pluto, technology and innovation. And Will Smith is in an accident where he and this other car with a young girl get pushed into a river, and a robot comes and decides to only save him because he had a higher chance of survival. So that's the air moon squaring Virgo Mars, like being useful based on a calculation. The Neptune is also the water scene, and the Cancer sun squaring it is the distrust Will has towards the robot from then onwards. So on Tuesday, June 24th, the movie today is 500 Days of Summer, the movie of my namesake, and partly why I chose it because Cancer season is the season that starts summer. Thankfully, today's aspects also really encapsulate the movie, which stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Tom and Zooey Deschanel as Summer. At 8:16 a.m., the Cancer sun conjuncts Cancer Jupiter at 3 degrees. And that's like the literal title of the movie, Sun representing days and Jupiter representing a lot, so 500 days of Cancer season, aka summer. Tom and Summer develop a relationship, and Tom is hopelessly in love with her throughout the whole movie, but eventually they break up and Tom is super depressed about it, which is the transit at 8:43 p.m., where the moon ingresses into Cancer. Cancer is a nostalgic sign, so that's Tom looking back fondly and sadly on all his good memories with Summer. A few hours later, at 11:27 p.m., the Cancer moon squares Aries Saturn at 1 degree. This is the reality check from Saturn and perfectly fits that expectations versus reality side-by-side scene where he expected to still be with her, but in reality, she's no longer his. On Wednesday, June 25th, the movie featured today is Everything Everywhere All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Hsu, and Ke Huy Quan as an immigrant family who own a laundromat that is being audited by the IRS. Cancer represents the home, family, and the maternal, and this movie is very focused on familial themes, culture, and tradition. At 12:15 a.m., the Cancer moon squares Aries Neptune at 2 degrees. And this is when Evelyn, the mom, starts to lose her grip on reality as her husband takes her through the multiverse. Neptune is that dreamlike, reality-dissolving, confusing energy, and that Aries, the sign of the warrior, is like an aggressive multiverse. Like she's literally fighting in every single one. At 2:32 a.m., the Cancer moon conjuncts Cancer Jupiter at 3 degrees. And that's Evelyn searching for her daughter, Joy, throughout these worlds, and also expanding her emotional awareness and understanding as a kinder mother. The Jupiter is also another perfect representation of the movie title, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this also represents the coming together of cultures as Evelyn's father comes to visit from China. At 3:31 a.m., the Cancer moon conjuncts Cancer sun at 4 degrees, the new moon. And this is that emotional scene between Evelyn and her daughter when they talk it out, and Evelyn shows her unconditional love for her daughter. At 4:16 a.m., the Cancer moon sextiles Virgo Mars at 4 degrees. And that's the family coming together, supporting each other through kindness and service, and facing the IRS audit head on, which is also a very Virgo Mars thing, issues with the details of tax and numbers. On on Thursday, June 26th, which is also my birthday and the day of my solar return, and I'm finally out of an 8th house Mars perfection year. Thank God. Anyways, today's movie is La La Land, starring Emma Stone as Mia and Ryan Gosling as Sebastian. At 2:44 a.m., the Cancer Mercury sextiles Taurus Uranus at 29 degrees. And this is that pool party scene where Mia requests Sebastian's band play I Ran, Taurus being the sign of music, and they end up talking afterwards because Sebastian is dismayed that she would request that from a serious musician, and also where they have their famous tap dancing scene. At 7:11 a.m., the Cancer Sun sextiles Virgo Mars at 5 degrees. This is when they share with each other their dreams of becoming a jazz musician and an actress, and they move in together and support each other in their dreams. At 8:07 a.m., the Cancer Moon sextiles Taurus Venus at 21 degrees. Throughout the whole movie, you see intimate displays of them falling in love with each other, including their Griffith Park observatory date. At 12:09 p.m., Mercury ingresses into Leo, and Leo is the sign of being seen, and this is like when Sebastian gets recruited into a popular and successful jazz band. 10 hours later, at 10:15 p.m., the Cancer Moon sextiles Taurus Uranus at 29 degrees. And even though it's a sextile, it's still at the anaretic degree, and Uranus comes in and shakes up their world and they separate. But later, Sebastian goes to find her to have her do one more audition, which is the one that catapults her to success. At 11:05 p.m., the moon ingresses into Leo. This is when Mia now becomes a famous actress, Leo also being the sign associated with acting. But you know, the moon moved from its own sign of Cancer into the sign of the other lunation, the sun, and this is that final divergence and separation between Mia and Sebastian. On Friday, June 27th, the movie is The Greatest Showman, which is a really amazing musical movie with Hugh Jackman, Zac Efron, and Zendaya, where they show a fictionalized depiction of the creation of the circus by P.T. Barnum. At 12:12 a.m., the Leo moon conjuncts Leo Mercury at 0 degrees. This is a song P.T. sings a million dreams about his visions for the circus. And I would sing so you could hear it in the actual melody, but that takes too long, so I'm just going to recite the lines. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head, a million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see, a million dreams is all it's gonna take, a million dreams for the world we're gonna make. At 2:04 a.m., the Leo moon trines Aries Saturn at 1 degree, and this is the song The Other Side that P.T. sings to Philip, Zac Efron, about joining the circus, with the lyrics, "And I can cut you free out of the drudgery and walls you keep in, so trade that typical for something colorful, and if it's crazy, live a little crazy. You can play it sensible, a king of conventional, or you can risk it all and see." So breaking free from those old conventional Saturnian walls and limits and just risking it all like in Aries. At 2:49 a.m., the Leo moon trines Aries Neptune at 2 degrees, and this is the song Come Alive, when P.T. is recruiting more performers with the lyrics, come alive, go and light your light, let it burn so bright, reaching up to the sky and it's open wide, you're electrified." At 4:38 a.m., the Leo moon opposes Aquarius Pluto at 3 degrees, and this is a societal backlash against the circus. But the Leo moon is unapologetically itself in the song This Is Me, with the lyrics, I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be, this is me, look out 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum, I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies, this is me. The entire song that Zac and Zendaya sing, Rewrite the Stars, is also really illustrative of this yearning versus societal pressure. Like in the lyrics, you think it's easy, you think I don't want to run to you, but there are mountains and there are doors that we can't walk through. At 8:52 p.m., the Leo Mercury trines Aries Saturn at 1 degree, and there are also two songs that really fit this, and that's Tightrope with the lyrics, mountains and valleys and all that will come in between, desert and ocean, you pulled me in, and together we're lost in a dream, always in motion, so I risk it all just to be with you, and I risk it all for this life we choose. The second song is From Now On with the lyrics, for years and years I chased their cheers, that's the Leo Mercury, the crazy speed of always needing more, but when I stop and see you here, I remember who all this was for. the Saturn realization of who he was doing all of this for, his family. On Saturday, June 28th, let's talk about Black Swan, starring Natalie Portman as Nina and Mila Kunis as Lily. At 4:57 a.m., the Leo Mercury trines Aries Neptune at 2 degrees. This is when Nina, a ballerina with the New York City Ballet, gets chosen to play the Swan in Swan Lake, where she's perfect as the White Swan, but there's some doubt whether she can play the dark, central Black Swan, that aggressive Aries Neptunian energy. At 5:22 p.m., the Leo Moon squares Taurus Venus at 23 degrees, and this is Nina's competition with Lily, who is more representative of the Black Swan. Taurus Venus is also that prominent central scene in that movie. At 12:57 a.m., Leo Mercury opposes Aquarius Pluto at 3 degrees, and it's Nina's descent into madness as she faces the pressure of performing. I won't spoil the final scenes, but the ending is also extremely illustrative of the Mercury opposing Pluto, so I highly suggest you watch the movie if you have not yet. On Sunday, June 29th, we end with a much more lighthearted movie, The Terminal, starring Tom Hanks as Victor and Catherine Zeta-Jones as Amelia. I don't know why I liked this movie so much growing up, but I also highly recommend it. At 4:02 a.m., the Leo Moon squares Taurus Uranus at 29 degrees. And this is when Victor at the airport finds out he can't go back to his home country because war has broken out, and he can't enter the United States because his passport is now invalid. So he's stuck in the airport and begins living there. At 4:44 a.m., the moon ingresses into Virgo, and at 1:12 p.m., the Virgo moon sextiles Cancer Jupiter at 4 degrees. And this is like Victor making do with what he has, meeting the staff all over the airport and befriending them. At 6:13 p.m., the Virgo moon conjuncts Virgo Mars at 7 degrees, and Victor is really helpful, helping out wherever he can, including construction, being a wingman, etc. At 8:54 p.m., the Virgo moon sextiles Cancer Sun at 8 degrees, and Victor meets Amelia, the lovely flight attendant played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, and they develop a relationship. And that's it for this week's transits. Let me know if you watched any of these movies or plan to watch them, and as always, I'd also love to hear your transit stories. You can like and subscribe if you find these helpful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you next week.